this is the month of Mental Health Awareness Month. This is a time dedicated to raising the awareness of the importance of mental health and also reducing the stigma of mental health conditions. They say that every dark cloud has a silver lining, right? And I would say for the pandemic, for the years of 2020 and 2022, that big dark cloud, the silver lining is that talking about mental health is a norm. It's no longer a taboo, and that's a good thing. The theme for 2025 is turning awareness into action. And that resonates with me so much because I like to take action, to be proactive and not just talk about it. And so here we are being challenged to take action. Most of the time when we're talking about mental health awareness or mental health in general, whether we're with family and friends or at work or in the community, the focus is on trauma and mental disorders. And these are very important topics. We're talking about not being ashamed of having these challenges and reaching out to get the resources that we need. And those resources are often our medical providers and clinicians, whether it's a social worker, a medical doctor, a psychiatrist, psychologist, and the list goes on and on. These topics are extremely important, but there are other ways that we can be proactive with our mental health as well. And that is through stress management and emotional regulation. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video, because there are tools right at our fingertips that we can be using every day to be proactive with our mental, emotional well-being. So I'm going to talk about a little piece of a framework today that is going to be supportive to you. And I'll do my best to explain how this works. So the framework is thoughts fuel emotion and emotion drives behavior. I'll say that again. Thoughts fuel your emotions and emotions drive behavior. I'm not going to talk about the full triangle today. We are focusing on thoughts fuel emotion. So I like to tell stories, so let me demonstrate how this works through my storytelling. Imagine that you are at work. You're sitting in front of your laptop and an email from your company CEO pops up. As you're reading that subject line, you know that this is a serious topic. You open that email and you begin to read. And as you're reading, you begin to feel anxiety. Now, before you can even finish reading the email, your coworker is bursting into your office and she's like, "Did you just read that email from the CEO?" And you all begin to talk about this email. And you notice that your anxiety has now gotten more intense. And as she leaves your office, you get a phone call from the manager. And as you're talking to the manager, this anxiety is growing even bigger. What exactly has just taken place here? Well, let me demonstrate or depict what has happened through an illustration. Imagine that your emotion of anxiety is a fire flame. And every thought that you have is a log. So let's rewind and go back to the moment that you opened that email. So you opened the email and you read line by line, and this anxiety fire flame is now burning. Imagine it's just two little flames that are burning. You have one thought about the email, and it feeds those two flames. Two flames are going to expand, maybe multiply into 4. And then when your coworker bursts into your office and you all begin to have that anxious conversation, now you're adding more logs of anxious thought to this fire flame. And that fire flame is expanding. And then when your manager calls and you have a conversation with your manager, more anxious thoughts begin to generate. And now you're fueling that anxiety fire flame even more, and it's grown even bigger. That is what's happening when we talk about thoughts fueling emotion. So what do you do at this point? This flame is burning. Well, obviously, you want to stop fueling those anxious emotions with anxious thought. Easier said than done, right? Especially if it feels like it's a crisis. I'll talk about how to do that in the next video. But for now, let us rewind and go back to that email. And let's imagine that we handle this thing a little differently from the very beginning. You open the email, You noticed that you were feeling anxiety. You had maybe one or two anxiety thoughts, and you noticed that anxiety began to grow and you stopped having the anxious thoughts. The coworker didn't come into your office. The telephone rang and you decided not to answer it. That little fire flame of anxiety now has more chances of just dying out because you're not fueling it with more anxious thoughts. So this is a first proactive step that you can take. I want to encourage you to pay attention for the next few days. The types of thoughts you are having, the quality of thoughts that you're having, and the emotions that you are experiencing. Are you fueling emotions with more thoughts of the same quality and making it bigger and bigger and bigger and getting out of control? It's always a choice. It may not feel like it's a choice or an option, but it is. And again, I'll talk about this more in the next video. But you can start off by asking yourself this question. Do I want to be right or do I want to be well? If it's a relationship issue on the job, with the family, with a partner, do I want to have conflict or do I want to connect and collaborate? Do I want to have drama or do I want to have peace? Because you see, we always have a choice. And that choice is, number one, self-awareness. And number two, do I want to add another thought log to this fire of emotion? Your mental, emotional well-being is in your hands. And I look forward to the next video and sharing more content with you about how you can be proactive with your mental, emotional well-being. If you want to share your insights, your thoughts, your experiences over the next few days, please do share in the comments.